Good morning, YouTube. It's Saturday. I'm in the office. You know what this means. Recording the Saturday Morning Hustle podcast. Right here, we're going to talk about adversity today. Thank you for tuning in on YouTube for the behind the scenes making of the podcast. I'm going to record the podcast right now, hitting the button, and here we go. Good morning. It's Saturday. I'm in the office. You know what that means. The Saturday Morning Hustle podcast. Today is another flashback motivated episode from 3 years ago talking about how to deal with adversity, how to stay positive and manage, maybe even benefit from, do as well as you possibly can with adversity. Why? Because we all have it. It will happen. There's no doubt about it. The better you deal with it, the more successful you can be. So with that in mind, here we go. I'm going to read you guys a couple of lines. I did about a paragraph by 3 years ago this week on the Saturday Morning Hustle social media post before I was doing the podcast about dealing with adversity, staying positive. I'm going to read you a couple of lines, then I'm going to explain them in great detail about what they mean and how you can utilize that for your business, your life, whatever pursuit you're achieving. So first couple of sentences, here we go. The Saturday Morning Hustle is all about staying positive. You guys know that, right? But today we need to talk about adversity. When life throws you a curveball or a roadblock, bring the gain down just a little bit there. Sorry, you guys, if I'm overdriving you. Here we go. Let's start this again. There's adversity right there. But all I could do is move forward. Apologize, move forward. Here we go. When life throws you a curveball or a roadblock at you, you don't take it personal. It's just business. It happens to everyone. This is the truth. In business, and this is something that's coming up recently. I did 2 entrepreneur talks for young people, one for a group of high school kids, another for a group of college kids. I talked a lot about dealing with adversity, the fact that you will hear many, many, many more no's than yeses. And that's just the truth. It's a fact that is what it is. You will hear 10 times as many no's as yeses. It's not your fault. It just is what it is. It is business. It's the price of doing business. But the flip side, the positive aspect, if you want to focus on the positive, is that the worst thing someone can say to you is no, which is not the end of the world. You just move on from it. And in a best case scenario, no's, you can learn something, you can get something out of it, you can gain some insight so that the next yes is more likely if you learn from, make adjustments, etc. So just because someone says no doesn't mean anything. Typically, a no isn't a I would never do business with you. Typically, a no is not right now. This is not the right time, the right situation. Whatever the combination is that didn't fit is why you get a no. So first, you're going to hear more no's than yeses. It happens to everyone. Don't be discouraged. And if you're a person who's going to easily be discouraged by 2 or 3 or 4 no's before you get to a yes, because you may have to go 10, 20, you may have to go 100 deep into no's before you get that first yes. But if you're a person who's easily discouraged by that, then definitely need to consider what kind of career path. You definitely don't want to be an entrepreneur or own your own business because no's happen more than yeses. It just is what it is. You have to train yourself. You have to adapt to it. The more you do it and the more that you see the success that comes after the string of no's, it gets easier. The first time it's hard. That's why it's important for us to talk about this now so that you can get through this. You can learn from my experience and other people's experiences. Ask anyone you know who's successful in their career as an entrepreneur, as a business owner. They will tell you you'll hear hundreds of no's before your yeses, but those yeses are the only important part. That's the focus, is taking advantage of the yeses and then learning from, adapting, adopting, adjusting with the no's. What the no's tell you will allow you to get to those yeses. So this is absolutely true. Do not take this personal. It's just business. It does happen to everyone. It may not be fair, but that's how things go as an entrepreneur, business owners. Opportunity comes from change. So embrace your adversity and create positives from negatives. This is an absolute truth. And honestly, it's easy to kind of push off people who are too positive all the time as not being realistic, as sort of just trying to paint this picture that doesn't exist. But the fact is that you can take negativity and adversity and no's in your life, and you can let that drag you down, or you can absolutely turn negatives into positives. And I'm not being foolish or being too optimistic about this, because I do it all the time. Like I just mentioned to you all a while ago, every no informs you why they said no and what you could do better in the future in order to moving them towards a yes. That's an absolute truth, no doubt about it. But there are plenty of lessons that you can learn. There are plenty of positives you can create from negatives. And then sometimes something that someone sees as a negative, you can turn into a positive. I think a great example is for me, as people would tell you my whole life, I'm very stubborn and I talk a whole lot. I'm very much someone who over-explains things. And so this makes me a perfect podcast host. Yes, because I need to explain these things to you. And that stubbornness is how I've been successful in business. So I took negatives or things that found to be, setbacks in my life, and I created a situation where they could become positives. So just because something is negative, and the other thing you have to remember, we all have positives and negatives. We all have strengths and weaknesses. There is no such thing as a perfect person, and there's no such thing as someone who has no redeeming qualities. So understand, embrace your positives. Try to either not get into the scenarios where your negatives are that important, or like I said earlier, take those negatives and turn them into positives for you. That's how you deal with it, because we all have positive, negative. None of us are perfect. It just is what it is. Take adversity and create opportunity, create positivity from that negativity. Find strengths and weaknesses. Back to the advice from 3 years ago, above all, no crying, complaining, or why me when things don't work out the way you want it or need them to. It goes back to being positive, staying focused, and understanding that any negative, even a string of negatives, is not anything to hold you back. So if you don't focus on it, you definitely don't mire into the why me. And a lot of people, when they're trying to do something, especially when they're trying to do something really big, really trying to create a big business opportunity, trying to launch a career as an artist, a musician, or really just go for something big. And often you have to go and fail small and go and fail small and go and fail small before you can go big successfully. But sometimes those small setbacks, people think, but I really want it. I'm a good person. I'm doing things in all the right way. Why me? Why isn't it working out for me? But the universe doesn't care. The universe doesn't owe you anything, and no one else owes you anything, in the sense of just because you want to do something, just because you're capable, doesn't mean you will get the opportunity, and you absolutely positively will not get that opportunity the very first time you try it without learning some things first, trial and error, failing small so that you can go big. So do not take the attitude that the universe is against you and why can't I win. Those factors aren't out there. No one's looking to put you down and hold you back. It just is what it is. We all go through the process, the adversity, the going through the process, the going through every scenario, learning from it, getting better from it, channeling yourself, pushing yourself, the consistency you create in yourself, all of that is then what makes you actually capable of achieving the big yes, the big goal, the big thing you're trying to do. Only comes because of the lessons learned and the character developed in the negative, setback, failing small to go big scenario. So you have to go through that in order to get there. There's no such thing as an overnight sensation. Every overnight sensation has been grinding for 5, 10, 15, sometimes 20, 25 years. And then all of a sudden, everyone else is familiar with them, but it's that grind that got them there. That's the 100 no's to the 1 yes. It's all the things that they did that failed that let them understand what could work. You don't see that in what people call overnight success, but any overnight success will tell you it didn't happen overnight. You had to go through that from start to finish. So embrace the process, embrace the no's, embrace the setbacks, embrace the hurdles. They'll make you better. It's practice, it's lifting weights, it's muscle memory. It's all the things you would do in any other thing that you do over and over again. The first time you do it, not so good. The second time you do it a little bit better. The third time, think about the first time you threw a basketball, baseball, the first time you tried to shoot a hoop, the first time you tried to ride a bicycle, the first time you do everything, you're just not capable. You just don't know what to do. But every time you do it, you get better and better. It's the same thing in your life, in your career, in your personal development, is starting off as an absolute amateur and moving through the process. The process itself is the benefit benefit. The end, of course, you want to get to the end. You want to get to the success. You want to be able to share the success. You want to make that your end goal, but you have to embrace the process. And that's what we're talking about today. Keep your head up, get back to work. Good luck, and focus. That's the end of the advice from 3 years ago. I'm going to continue to give you some more advice on top of that today because, again, like I said earlier, I was talking to a couple of different groups of young people, to some high school kids and to some college kids, about my own personal entrepreneur path. I've talked about it here on the Saturday Morning Hustle before. I've definitely also talked about it on my business podcast, the Neo Marketing Podcast, for the Golden Group. My path to success, my path to where I am today, the career that I thought I was setting out when I was a teenager. I started my first business as a teenager. That business doesn't exist anymore. It went and then it failed. And then my second business went and it failed. And my third business and my fourth business and every version of everything that's led up to where I'm at now started as something, did something else, and either failed or morphed into something else that was unexpected, unplanned. But by embracing the fact that I learned to do those things, those first 5 or 6 or 7 businesses had nothing to do with what I do today, but they did teach me about how to operate a business, how to manage people, how to make contracts, how to network, how to negotiate, how to sell, how to fail, how to learn from failures, how to take no's and move forward with them. And I went through the whole process as a young person and then someone with some intermediate experience and then a tremendous amount of experience. And then I translated that into a completely different type of business and then took that business and morphed it into something else. And then I have the business that I have today that has no resemblance to the business I started when I was 15 years old. But every experience from that point, especially the failures, especially when I look back now and thinking, of course, if I knew then what I know now about how to run a business, how to do these things, how much differently it would have turned out. But I didn't. And it turned out that those businesses don't exist anymore. But the process itself, what I learned through it, the failures that educated me are what I put into my business success today with my actual business, the day job, the 40-hour week thing, with the Saturday Morning Hustle, with my social media, with my community work. Anything that I do that I'm involved in, I bring these things with my experiences because that's what human beings do. And that's one of the reasons I find it so important to share these ideas here on the Saturday Morning Hustle podcast, talking to the youth groups I talked to the last couple of weeks, when I do any kind of speaking engagement, anything on video, anything on Zoom, any writing blog post, anything that social media post, all of these things are sharing my experiences because that's how we all get better at what we're doing. And it allows you to self-reflect on the things that you did well and the things you failed at, how you can come out of it stronger, better, in a better position to succeed in the future. And, they say hindsight is 20/20. Well, failing, learning a lesson and then applying that lesson to future successes is absolutely a 20/20 vision scenario. It's absolutely what you take and move forward with, and you don't realize it at the time. The failure stings, the no stings, you don't get to do this now. We're not playing this game with you at this point. You're not the person, you're not the guy, you're not the girl, you're not the choice. That stings in the moment, but it moves you where you need to be. You learn things and you move forward, and that's what the real value is, but you won't understand the value until you're able to look back at it. That's why I always tell you, remember the first time you tried something, the first time you did something, the first time you tried to paint something, sing a song, the first time you tried to type on a keyboard, the first time you got on a skateboard, the first time you threw something, the first time you tried to do a cartwheel. It doesn't matter what it is. The idea is the first time you did it, you were not good. In fact, you were probably terrible at it, but what you learned from doing it wrong eventually ultimately piled up into how you know to do it right. So that is how you take adversity and create positivity out of it. You take negative setbacks, the things that slow down and shut down people who are not prepared to actually do it in the right way, and you transform them into telling you what to do better moving forward, to letting you know you have to make improvements, that you're not set, that you have to keep going, and other lessons that are learned, because sometimes it really is specifically, someone will say no, and here's why. An absolute lesson tied up in that right there. Listen to what they're telling you. as much as you want to do things in your own way, especially if you're an entrepreneur, you're trying to be creative in your career, you want to do things in your own way, but there's some point where you have to understand the give and take, especially when you give on small pieces. You get to keep the core of what you're trying to do, but you give little things, you give compromises, you give collaborations, you learn from other people in the discussion, and you change things that you weren't necessarily dead set on, I'll fight to the death on this, and it takes you and moves you forward where you don't have to change the things that are absolutely essential to you, that are core to what it is you're trying to achieve. That comes from the learning process of hearing no's and maybes and not right nows and all those things, being told you're not the person, it's not, the timing's not right, it's not the combination, etc. Not letting those things affect you personally. Move forward with it. Even sometimes I've had some situations where someone has told me no or told me it's not the right time. And so many times, and I kept positive, I kept coming back, I kept looking for ways to improve, asking for feedback for improvement, etc. Where they finally looked at me and said, it's the consistency of your ability to come back from the no is why I'm going to give you the yes now. So all of these things go into, you're going to hear more no's than yeses. You have to take that negative sting in the moment and turn it into something positive, fuel for moving you forward. If you can do that, then you very much have the probability and opportunity to be successful, to move from where you are to the next phase, to the next phase, to the next phase that's continual and never stops. But eventually you'll find yourself in a very high level of success with the experience necessary to maintain it and continue to move on to the next level because you learned your lessons from adversity. That's the point today. Appreciate you guys tuning in to the Saturday Morning Hustle podcast each and every week. I hope you liked it. Please let me know how you found this podcast on social media, etc. Make comments, leave a rating, leave a review, give the thumbs up, put a heart on there, whatever it is. Let me know if you like this topic, if you want to hear more of this topic, if you want to hear different topics, different things in the Saturday Morning Hustle. I'm all about trying to tell you guys what it is you need to hear and try to translate my experience into you, helping as many of you as possible. So leave a comment. I appreciate it very much. I appreciate your support. I appreciate you tuning in again this week. Fired up on this topic. I love this topic, but I'm happy that you're here. I'm happy I'm here. It's Saturday. I'm going to go back to work now, outwork the competition while they're still sleeping. That's what we do each and every week on the Saturday Morning Hustle. See you next time.